Stephen, I'll turn it on over to you.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Day. I work here over at Argonne National Lab, generally between CyberForce competition and been kind of organizing and doing most things pertaining to RAIN this year. So yeah, welcome. Next slide, please. All right, so what is RAIN? RAIN is an escape room style competition based on like capture the flag. The participants must basically traverse through various rooms to reach the end. Each room contains theme-based challenges, and there's extra challenges along the way that are available to be solved, and that will help your overall time. All right, so basically to access the scoreboard for this on game day, you're going to want to go to rain.cyberforcecompetition.com. We're going to send out everyone's credentials on Friday, September 17th. If you do not receive these credentials by noon, please email CyberForce support@anl.gov. And you will not be able to access the scoreboard until game time, which is Saturday, 10 a.m. Central Time. All right, virtual machine access. So all competitors will have access to their own virtual machines. So everyone gets their own. You don't have to worry about trying to share, somebody blowing up your box, anything like that. Everyone gets their own little playground. You'll be provided credentials to this machine on Friday, September 17th again. You will not be able to access that until game time, which is the same Saturday, September 18th at 10 a.m. Central Time. If by chance after 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, you still can't access your machine or scoreboard or anything, submit a help desk ticket. And on Friday, we will give you the link to do so. All right. Competition is 8 hours long. So you have from 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturday until 6 p.m. Central Time. So you have up to the entire 8 hours to be used to go through all of the challenge rooms, complete all the challenges. Obviously you don't have to spend that much time doing them, but if you need that whole time length, you've got it. The person who gets the furthest in the least amount of time will be declared the conqueror of the hill. All right, so when you log into the scoreboard, this is what you're going to see. And so basically what it means is that any gray room is locked. So room 1, as you enter, will obviously be unlocked so that you can get into it and go to the challenges. And as you progress through the challenges, you will, when you hit the last challenge of every room, you'll be able to unlock like room 2. And then when you get to the last challenge of room 2, you'll unlock room 3 as well. And it just keeps kind of going like that. All right, so just so nobody had to guess, we decided to just lay it all out for you. So the challenges in room 1, so there's 7 room challenges. All right, so these are, so every actual like challenge is mandatory in a way, right? So when you complete challenge 1, it'll pop you out a key. That key will basically unlock the next challenge and so forth. Challenge 7 itself is not skippable. So all of the challenges, like challenge 1 through 6, in the scoreboard, you'll be able to skip them. Challenge 7, because it's the last room challenge, it's kind of like a gateway. You will not be able to skip it. And then there's extra challenges. So the first extra challenge is in room 1. It is not skippable as well. So if you want the bonus time, basically to be shaved off of your ending time, you'll have to complete it. There is no option to skip, but it is optional. You don't have to do them if you do not want to. Room 2, so there's 6 actual room challenges. The last, challenge 6, again, not skippable. You have to complete it to get to room 3. And there's one extra challenge in there as well. Room 3 is just 3 normal room challenges. Challenge 3 cannot be skipped. All right, and room 4 has 2 extra challenges in it. 4 normal room challenges, and because there's only 4 rooms, the caveat to room 4, challenge 4, is that 1, it cannot be skipped, but once you submit the answer to challenge 4, you are no longer able to go back and do any extra challenges at all. So it stops your time completely. So if you want to do extra challenges, do them before you submit the answer to challenge 4. All right, I hope that makes sense. This way, it's more of a game of strategy. So you have to kind of figure out what the best approach is to going about trying to solve all these in the best amount of time. Next, thank you. Okay, so again, once you go into room 1 in the scoreboard, this is what you'll see. So it's got all the challenges and the extra challenge. All right, so you'll see challenges 1 through 6. They can be skipped. There are hints available. Some challenges just do not have hints. And if you get, basically, if you fail the submission of a specific challenge 5 times, it will automatically skip you. All right, so when you skip, you incur a time penalty. Yes, so hints, when you click the hint button, it doesn't automatically load it for you. You just have to hit the load hint. The note above it revealing a hint will result in a time penalty. All right, so you can click on it. That way it doesn't, automatically just take the points if you don't actually want the hint. Skip, it asks you if you make sure you are aware you're incurring a time penalty. It will provide you the answer so that you can get to the next challenge. All right, support. So your help desk support is available if you are having issues with your virtual machine or scoreboard only. If you need assistance, please email cyberforcesupport@anl.gov. Help desk should not be used to ask if your logic or answer is correct. These challenges are difficult. You may not complete them all, but do the best you can. And that is, a lot of this is difficult. There's not a lot of challenges, but to be completely honest, some of them are insanely difficult, and it is okay if you don't finish them. But a good challenge is a good thing. So it'll help you know what to get better with. Next slide. All right. Competitors will have 5 attempts to answer challenges. If not answered correctly after 5 attempts, it is considered a skip and will incur a time penalty unless it is a skippable challenge. Let's see. So this is basically the algorithm that we used so that somebody couldn't just go through and just auto skip every single challenge and try to get the fastest time. So basically, if you try to skip all of the challenges, you'll actually incur more time penalty than the 8-hour competition as a whole. So this is another piece of strategy that you'll have to use. Basically trying to figure out which challenges are worth taking the time to do and which are actually worth just, taking the time penalty instead of, spending the time to try to solve them. So basically, if you skip 1, it's 5 minutes. If you skip 2, it's 14, 328, all the way to 16 of the challenges worth 600 minutes. Optional challenges cannot be skipped and thus do not incur penalties. Completing optional challenges reduce your overall time. Competitors can take hints when provided, and each hint will be a 2-minute penalty. Next, please. Okay, so key takeaways. So Saturday, 10 a.m. Central Time, that's game time. Scoreboard is accessible. The VMs are accessible. Your timer will start right at that time. The help desk is up and running. Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time. The competition is complete. The scoreboard goes down, timer stops, help desk goes down, and the VMs are rendered unavailable. All right, questions? Hopefully that made sense.
I can allow you guys to come off mute if there's questions that anyone has. Tyree asks, what's the average time for completion?
So we had a few people test already, and the average time for completion is about 4 to 5 hours, roughly. And that was, trying to get people to test that had nothing to do with the build itself. So yeah, it was about that.
Is there any downside to skipping other than the time penalty?
No. If you skip, you're just going to incur the time penalty. So the whole point, right, is to try and do the entire competition with the best time, right? That will provide who's the winner. You can honestly go through and skip them all if you really wanted to, except for the challenges that are unskippable. But it really comes down to the time penalty is what you the exchange for skipping.
I will say at the end of the day, I mean, the downside too is that it doesn't really help you learn anything either by just skipping it.
That is true. Yeah.
And you'll still get stuck at your end of each room because you can't skip the final one. So you'll still be stuck in room 1 unless you can answer the final answer. How many have tested, and of those, how many completed?
I mean, we had about, I think, 6 people test in total, and 3 people completed.
If I wanted to study for this, what kind of material would I use?
So study material would pretty much be your normal like cybersecurity gambit, whether it's types of crypto, scripting, Linux. There's some buffer overflow, just various odds and end things that your normal cybersecurity education could kind of cover and go over. But in this case, a little more in depth.
So it says you can't skip the extra challenges. Does this mean if you start the extra challenges, you have to do them, or they're not required to progress further? So can they start an extra challenge and then ultimately say, never mind?
Yep, they can. Yep. So basically what you're getting is a Linux machine. And inside of these, basically a room is a directory. So you can go, and try to work on that challenge. And, if you can't figure out that extra challenge, you can just stop and move on. There's nothing saying that you have to continue and try to solve it. So it's really up to you.
So maybe we should quickly explain to them how they're going to connect to that Linux machine.
That's fine. So on Friday, everyone will get their credentials and their IP addresses. So basically what you'll do is you'll just have to use those credentials and SSH directly to that IP address. It's, you can use whatever you want. If you're a Linux person, obviously you can terminal SSH. If you're a Windows person, PowerShell, terminal SSH, or, if you have any specific application like GUI application, SSH tools, PuTTY, however, to connect to it. It's just a simple SSH credential in.
So I can answer this next question. The question's any place to view previous materials from previous Conquer the Hill competitions. So this is the first Conquer the Hill Rain edition. This is the first year that we're running them. So no, there's no previous materials. The previous Conquer the Hill, which was Adventure, was a different format. So that wouldn't necessarily help you for this one. So in essence, looking at anything from that, could help you in understanding just educational material, but wouldn't necessarily help you for this competition. But understand that we are looking for feedback on this. And the goal is every year we'll be hosting Rain again. So to get your feedback from this at the end as well. Are we going to have privileged access to the machines in terms of needing to install a package to manage a service or anything else?
No, you will not. So your user that you will gain is not a suitor, but you will not need it to solve any of these. Anyone that's tested, creators included, everything is solvable on this box. You don't have to really pull anything off if you don't want to. It's your choice, obviously, if you want to pull something off and move it to another, VM or your host or however. Just know that by doing so, it could break some of the challenges, which is why we developed it. Everything can actually be solved within the VM itself. Of course.
Any other questions from anyone?
And I will just say the hints in themselves will kind of point you towards specific software applications, however, that are installed on the VM. Some that you may or may not be aware of, but the hints do help. And also there are READMEs embedded in every single room and challenge that will help you as well. You sometimes have to read into what the READMEs say, but generally they do point you in a direction for these challenges. How many participants? 50.
So we purposefully did a smaller group for this go around for Rain, just to keep it a little bit more in a controlled environment for us. So that's why we're ensuring we have this for you all, so you can ask the questions ahead of time, so everyone has a very clear understanding of what we're looking at. Anyone else? First place rewards, isn't that the truth? Everyone's very concerned on that. The rewards haven't totally been thought through yet. There will be a first place prize. I don't know if we use rewards these days anymore, but results or announcements of winners will come out on Tuesday. So give the folks here at Argonne a slight breather come Monday, just so that since they're working on a Saturday, to kind of go through, make sure that nothing went wonky. And then Tuesday morning, between the Department of Energy and Argonne, we'll be putting out a press release announcement of the top 3 winners. And also, I guess we didn't really say this clearly either. You will not see anyone else's time. So ultimately you're fighting against yourself. So you won't be able to see that Stephen completed everything in 20 minutes and what's the point? You kind of, best guess, at the end of the day, to just do your best and try to complete everything that you can until the very end, even if that takes you the entire 8 hours. So just don't give up and just kind of keep going through. Are we going to be provided with a certificate of completion or participation? Usually we don't provide that, but we can sure provide that if you would like to. Just, if typically for CyberForce program competition, Conquer the Hills, you're more than welcome to put this on a resume. And if for some reason someone asks for clarification or support, we're happy to provide that as a reference point. But we can provide you a certificate of completion if you'd like. Stephen likes the logo a lot, so we can.
Yeah, we can do that. Not sure if anybody likes dungeon crawlers, but the hope is that next year we can get this into a dungeon crawler form. But this is kind of the beta, so we just need to make sure that it is what the people want. Good challenge. Should we contact the main email address for it? Yes.
Yep. So that would be CyberForce competition at anl.gov. And that ultimately comes to me. So if I could give you an evil laugh, I would. Anything else from anyone? I don't want to keep anyone beyond the time that it needs to be, but I want to make sure questions are answered. All right, well, if questions do come up, please feel free to, again, before this competition starts, email cyberforcecompetition@anl.gov. Like I said, I monitor that daily, so if I can't answer it, I will be sure to forward it to Stephen here, who can either pass that out to the rest of the team or help me with the answer. Understand that, we appreciate you all taking the time to be kind of the inaugural folks of providing us feedback on RAIN here. And as Stephen said, the goal of this is really to grow this and, move it into something bigger. So, your feedback is valuable to us on it. And just taking part in this, you are a part of our CyberForce program. So there's a lot of benefit to that in moving forward. So be on the lookout for that here after all this is over with. So in the meantime, thanks for joining. And then, like I said, I will be sending out a link to this recording in case you want to rewatch anything along with the PDF, and be on the lookout for all the credentials. There will be 2 sets of them. So, right, 2 sets of them. So if you miss one, just please be sure to email. Otherwise, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good night. Good luck.